since we're already talking about defense, let's move on to defensive player of the year. No longer just rookies, defensive player of the year as a whole. Who you got?
Ooh, I have the person that I feel like everybody is sleeping on, but he is so fucking good. I have Jared Verse as my defensive player of the
Mm,
year. He is just so fucking nasty last year. And I believe he won defensive rookie of the year.
yeah, he did. Yep.
Um yeah, so
I think he had
I
9
just
sacks.
yeah. He was just insane and insane. Another insane pickup for a team that has hit on most of their picks within the last 5 years or so. And he was a later round guy too from Florida State. So, but he's just so good, and I just feel like it's not like a T.J. Watt kind of like or Micah Parsons kind of year. You know what I mean? Like those
Mm.
guys are still gonna be great and all, especially if Micah gets to a different team. But I don't know. I just something in me is telling me that it's just gonna go the verse this year because he hasn't. They already gave it to those other guys. You know.
Yeah, I think it's time for a young guy to step up. Personally, I will say I think that is your worst pick so far. That's just my thought. Jared Verse, I think he's good. I don't think that he's like you said, TJ Watt. He's TJ Watt, shares the record with Michael Strahan for having the most sacks in a season with 22 and a half. And then 2 years ago, he had 19. So like, and the
Yeah,
year
but
that
is
TJ Watt
CJ
had
Watt gonna have another season like that though? I don't
well,
know.
no, not necessarily, but the year TJ Watt had 19, he didn't even win Defensive Player of the Year. Myles Garrett did. And I think he had a
Yeah,
couple less
that was
sacks. That was a
bullshit.
big controversy.
Yeah.
Um, but that's like the bar that we're at for, defensive ends when it comes to trying to win Defensive Player of the Year. I was looking at potentially another cornerback because Pat Surtain won it last year. And what was I going to say about Jared Verse? I think that it is time for a young guy to step up, like you're saying. I don't think it's going to be TJ Watt or Myles Garrett. Originally, I did have TJ Watt written down. And the more that I thought about it, I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think he's going to return to that form because he has been in the league for, I want to say, 8 or 9 years. He's starting to get a little older. I mean, we talk about Trey Hendrickson getting older and not necessarily meaning that he's going to dip in production, but Trey Hendrickson didn't win Defensive Player of the Year last year, and he had 17 and a half sacks. Jared Verse had 9 sacks. And, so how many sacks does Verse need to have to get up to that point where he can win defensive? He's not going to win if he has 9 sacks. I'll tell you that. But
Well, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm leading up to my pick.
Okay. Okay.
Who probably will have more than 9 sacks this year is Will Anderson Jr. Steen from the Houston Texans. And you know why, Tony? Is I was just talking about how complementary football is so important. And I think the Houston Texans are one of the best examples of playing complementary football. They released their roster today, and I went to check their defensive backs. So they have Derek Stingley Jr., who I was thinking about picking him for this award because he is that good of a cornerback that he could potentially win it himself. CJ Gardner-Johnson is a veteran pickup. Jalen Petrie, Kamari Lassiter, and then there's some other names in here that are not so notable. But that's a pretty good secondary right there. So I think having that secondary being so strong is going to give Will Anderson the ability to completely feast on the defensive line, along with Danielle Hunter being on the other side of the defensive line, dude, it's a recipe for success. I think that Jared Verse and Will Anderson are similar because they're both young players with a lot of potential and a lot of athleticism. But I think Will Anderson is in a better situation when it comes to the defense around him. And that's why I would pick Will Anderson over Jared Verse. And I'll allow
See,
you to defend.
I disagree. I think that defense last year, that especially on the defensive line that the Rams built, not even just Jared Verse, but they put some other young, very good pieces around them. And
They got Braden Fisk too.
yeah, and I just looked at Will Anderson's stats. His rookie year, he had 7 sacks, and then last year he had 11. So I just don't like the jump
So,
that you're expecting him
but
to
he's on
make.
an
I just
upward
don't know.
trajectory.
I
He's only
guess
getting
yeah, I guess in a way we're both of our picks. We're expecting these guys to make such a massive jump, but just because they looked so good at like so young as a rookie.
Mhm.
But that's warranting enough of us to put confidence in picking them over like the big names, you know?
I think it just goes to show when it comes to these defensive players. I mean, Micah Parsons is another guy who has a really good chance at winning it. He's still
Well,
young,
if he plays.
and that's the big question, right? Is are they going to get a deal done? And that's a whole nother can of worms that we could talk about. With Jerry Jones is like, I don't want to negotiate with an agent being present in the room. Jerry Jones doesn't want to negotiate. He wants to negotiate directly with Micah Parsons with no agent, which is kind of like unheard of in the current NFL. But I guess historically, Jerry Jones has done this with many of his players throughout history, that he's just like, I'm going to take care of my guys. And it just seems like a disconnect between Micah Parsons and what he wants, and then Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones, like, when I have seen the clips of him going on people's podcasts, or I think, who was it? He sat with Michael Irvin,
Michael Irvin, Michael Irvin's podcasts.
and he's like, there's
I
in
love
my
this.
head, the deal's done.
Yeah,
In your head, the deal's done.
that is what he said. That is, yeah,
But not on paper. It's not about in your head. It's about, but what? Hold on. I think there's like a disconnect, because, in his head, he's like, it's almost like he's asking for so much trust from Micah Parsons to be like, it's gonna happen, but Micah wants a little bit more assurance, I feel like. And that's a totally different situation. Getting a little sidetracked there, but I think that situation just steers me away from Micah Parsons. But when it comes to pass rushers, I think when it comes to guys like Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, I don't want to lump in Micah Parsons there, but I think it's a little bit of like the old guard is on its way out, and we're going to usher in
yeah.
a new era with some of these really young pass rushers that look really, really good.
That's what I'm
And
thinking as well.
yeah, so I think that's kind of the way that we're going. Do you have Evans' pick for defensive player of the year?
I do. Evan has picked TJ Watt.
TJ Watt. Okay. I was started preparing to talk about TJ Watt and why he was going to win it, and he did have some injuries, I want to say. No, I'm sorry, because I was looking at the stats last night, and I believe he played a full 17 games last year. And he had 11 sacks, I think. The year before that was when he had 19 and he lost to Myles Garrett. But I think he's a man on a mission. And I think he's always going to be a presence on that Steelers defense. So I don't think it would completely shock me if he did. But like I said, I feel like it doesn't scream to me like it's going to happen the same way that it does for some of these younger players that I feel like they're more poised to take that jump for the first time, as opposed to a guy who already did it taking that jump back to where they were.
Yes, and historically for defensive linemen, that is exactly how it goes. Like T.J. Watt
Mm-hmm.
is his biggest thing for me as well is his age, and they're just not even close to the same person they were when they were younger.
Yeah.
Um, not not saying that T.J. Watt can't be great. I just think that he can't be like fucking once in a decade like pass rusher like he was like 4 or 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like those
Yeah.
times are just over for him.
I think he will still have a handful of forced fumbles this year because that's just
Yeah.
his patented move to just go in and just be like, just like rip that ball out. Like he does that like nobody else that I've ever seen. It's so cool to see when he does do it because it's always like you're on red zone watching something else and then it's like, let's show you this play from the Steelers game and it's like, oh shit, crazy, everyone's going nuts. It's always unexpected and it's just, man, it's great to see. But if he can stack up a couple of those in this season during like big moments in games, I could see that being like a big strong point for him and a chance for him to win it.
And real quick, just to end this off real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to say that usually the NFL does not give these awards to people like a bunch of different times. Like if you look at Defensive Player of the Year, there's a lot of ones like you won it once and then that's it. You don't win it again. I
Yeah.
feel like it's really hard for them to give somebody that award more than once, uh, unless you're a quarterback and unless you're an MVP. And even then, they still don't give it to players as much as they should. Like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady should have won way more MVPs if you think about it. So
Mm.
just something to consider as we go through like all of these awards. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
NFL tends to cater towards more new faces winning these.